All right, so are you ready to dive deep today? We're going across the pond to the UK.
Ooh, cross the pond. Sounds fun.
It is. And we're taking a cue from EVTV's YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, I've seen his stuff.
Yeah, he did this really interesting deep dive into the British economy,
Okay.
talking to people you know on the street, looking at data.
I like his style. Gets right into it.
Exactly.
I know.
And it's kind of a stark contrast that he points out. He kicks off the whole thing by asking, how did a nation that used to, control a quarter of the globe
Wow.
end up being compared economically to Mississippi?
The poorest U.S. state.
Yeah,
That's a big question, isn't it?
it is. And what's crazy is how quickly it happened.
Really?
Yeah, just over a century.
Wow.
So Evie starts his journey in London.
Makes sense.
And you can feel it right away, the global influence, the energy.
London's a powerhouse, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Economically. Yeah, undeniable.
Like, its financial worth is more than Argentina's entire economy.
That's wild.
It is.
So that makes you wonder, right? If all that wealth in London,
Yeah.
does it actually benefit the whole UK?
Right. Or is it just London?
Yeah.
That's at the heart of what Avi's looking at. But to get there, we have to go back a bit.
Okay.
Back to why London is so powerful financially.
So we're talking history.
Yeah, we're talking about the British Empire.
Ah, so the legacy of empire is still at play.
Oh, absolutely. Back in the day, Britain built a financial system
Okay.
that basically channeled all global trade through London.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that system, plus the city's location,
Yeah.
gave it a huge edge in the global markets.
Still to this day.
Oh, yeah. Avi even interviews this Indian trader
Okay.
who explains how London's perfectly placed
Mm-hmm.
between New York and Tokyo.
Time zones.
Exactly. When one market closes, London's opening.
Wow. So they're always in the game.
Always. And that's why London's just packed with banks and law firms, consulting companies,
Like,
a magnet for global capital.
huh. So while London's thriving, what about the rest of the UK? Evie talks to this Nigerian immigrant who actually praises London's education system.
Okay.
But he also says the high cost of living is a real struggle.
I can imagine.
So it seems like London's not just about money.
No.
It draws people who want a good quality of life, too.
Interesting. It's more than just the financial side, isn't it?
Yeah, and Evie actually goes beyond the financial stuff.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he visits this Google DeepMind AI for Science forum.
Sounds fancy.
Oh, it is! Nobel laureates. YouTubers like Derek from Veritasium. Cutting-edge research.
So, like, the future of science.
Yeah, and one thing that really jumps out is this DeepMind program called AlphaFold.
AlphaFold.
It uses AI to predict protein structures.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that got to do with anything?
So it turns out it's super accurate.
Probably.
It's already mapped over 200 million protein structures.
100 million.
And Avi explains that that's like saving scientists 1 billion years of research time.
1 billion. That's incredible.
I know, right? And this kind of tech, that's exactly what brings the best talent to London. Keeps it at the forefront of innovation.
So London's got money and brains.
Basically. But then here's the question. Does all that wealth and all that innovation
Yeah.
trickle down to the rest of the UK?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. And that's where Evie introduces this idea of a two-speed economy.
Two-speed, meaning...
Like London zooming ahead,
Okay.
but other parts of the UK are struggling to keep up.
Ah.
One guy even tells Evie that London feels like a separate country.
Wow.
Like all the opportunities, all the wealth, they're concentrated in this golden triangle.
Golden Triangle, what's that?
Oxford, Cambridge, and London.
Ah, I see. The brains and the money all in one place.
Yeah. But is it sustainable?
Right. What about everyone else?
Exactly. And the numbers are pretty stark.
Oh, yeah.
London makes almost half of the UK's financial services revenue,
Huge.
but it's only 13% of the population.
That's a big imbalance.
Yeah, and if you took London out of the equation,
Yeah.
British living standards would plummet.
More than other countries in a similar situation.
Way more. So the UK is really reliant on London.
Wow.
And then Evie starts looking at the human impact. Like he tells this story of a marketing professional in South London who just got hit with a 26% rent increase.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's gotta hurt.
And it's not just him. Rents in London spiked 17% last year.
So people are spending, what, half their income on rent?
just to have a place to live.
Crazy.
And AV interviews someone else who says their household income has doubled in the last 10 years.
Okay.
But they're still struggling because the cost of living is so high.
Wow. So it's not just about earning more, it's about what you can do with it.
Exactly. And this leads Evie to the UK's housing crisis.
A crisis.
Yeah, it boils down to supply and demand.
Okay.
There's just not enough housing.
For all the people.
Yeah. So you have tons of competition, and that drives prices way up.
Classic supply and demand.
Yep. And then there's this thing called the inheritance tax.
Inheritance tax.
Yeah. So even if you manage to buy a property,
Yeah.
your kids could end up paying a 40% tax to inherit it.
40%? That's rough.
Yeah.
So it's like the system is working against you.
Feels that way, right?
It does.
And then AV shifts focus to healthcare,
Oh, to the NHS.
the NHS,
Okay.
which used to be like a source of national pride.
Yeah.
But he talks to a nurse who paints a very different picture.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So you say.
Like, they're facing a staffing crisis. Doctors, nurses, support staff.
Why are they leaving?
Burnout, low pay, massive workloads.
It's tough.
And this nurse tells AV there are 7 million people waiting for treatment.
7 million.
7 million, just waiting.
That's a lot of people.
It is. And she talks about staff shortages, long waiting lists, a system that's just overwhelmed, an aging population, the rising cost of healthcare.
It sounds like a system on the verge of collapse.
Yeah,
And it makes you think, right? Even rich countries can struggle with healthcare.
it does.
So it's not just about money then.
No, it's more complicated than that.
It is.
And to help explain it, AV gets into these broader economic concepts, like the productivity trap and Dutch disease.
Okay, so that's where we'll pick up next time with those concepts.
We will. And trust me, they shed a lot of light on what's happening in the UK.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so the productivity trap and Dutch disease. Where do we start?
Well, let's unpack those ideas a bit.
Right.
What exactly do they mean, and how do they connect to what we're seeing in the UK?
Right. Okay, so the productivity trap, basically it's like this. When you don't invest enough,
Okay.
you end up with outdated equipment and processes.
Makes sense.
And that leads to lower productivity, which means lower wages for workers.
Ah, so it's a cycle.
Yeah, a vicious cycle. And when wages don't keep up with the cost of living,
People leave.
exactly, you get a brain drain. Talented people go where there are better opportunities.
So that makes the problem even worse.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of the strong pound.
A strong currency. Isn't that
Yeah.
a good thing?
Well, it can be,
Yeah.
but AV explains how it can actually hurt some parts of the economy.
Really? I don't get it. Wouldn't a strong currency make a country richer?
But think about it. A strong pound makes British exports more expensive,
Oh.
so they're less competitive globally.
So they can't sell their stuff as easily.
Exactly. And this is especially tough for industries like manufacturing, which are already struggling.
I see. It's like they're priced out of the game.
Exactly. And this is where Dutch disease comes in.
Okay. Dutch disease. What is that?
It's when you have one super strong sector, like London's finance industry,
Okay.
and it actually ends up hurting other sectors.
So London's success is bad for the rest of the UK.
It's not that simple, but it does highlight the need for balance. You need a variety of industries
Yeah.
supporting each other.
So not all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. But then Evie throws in a curveball.
Oh.
He talks about this bet he made a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
When he launched his first video editing cohort,
A bet. On what?
he basically bet on the future of content creation. He figured that skilled video editors would be in high demand. He was
Yeah.
right.
So he was ahead of the curve.
Yeah, he saw the shift towards digital media coming,
Yeah.
and he realized the potential.
To train people for those jobs.
Exactly.
How did it go?
His program has been super successful. He's trained like 3,000 editors,
Wow.
and many of them are working with top YouTubers and companies,
So he was onto something.
big time. And he uses this example to talk about economic cycles, how everything goes up and down, nations rise and fall, industries boom and bust.
So it's about recognizing those patterns.
Exactly. Knowing where we are in the cycle.
Is he saying the UK is in decline then?
Well, he doesn't put it like that.
Okay.
He's more interested in what drives growth and decline,
Mm-hmm.
but he does see potential in other places, like India.
He talks about India a lot.
Yeah, he's drawn to the energy there, the ambition, like they're building something new.
Huh. So maybe economic success isn't just about wealth and stability.
All right, maybe it's also about dynamism
Mhm.
and being open to change.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Right.
But Evie ends on a bit of a somber note.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he talks about how every golden age has to end.
So what happens then? when the gold starts to tarnish.
Well, AV argues that wealth can disappear pretty quickly.
How?
If societies become complacent, if they don't adapt to change, he said prosperity isn't guaranteed. You have to work for it. Innovate, evolve. It's like you can't just sit back and relax.
Exactly. You got to keep pushing forward, keep learning.
Yeah. Don't get stuck in the past.
And that's what I like about Evie's message. He doesn't leave you feeling hopeless. He challenges you to be proactive, to shape the future.
Not just watch it happen.
Right. And he leaves you with this question. Do you want to be part of a system that's declining? Or do you want to create something new and better?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It really makes you think about your own role in the world. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
does make you think, doesn't it? About, like what impact am I having?
It's a call to action, I think. Like, you're not powerless.
Right. Not just along for the ride.
Exactly. We can choose how we participate in these systems. The economy, our communities, even our families.
Yeah, we can actually push for change.
Avie's pretty clear about where he stands. He'd rather be part of something that's growing, even if it's messy or uncertain.
Yeah, he keeps talking about India.
Right. He sees that energy there, the optimism. Like, they're not afraid to try new things.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like maybe we get too caught up in the idea of decline.
Right, like it's inevitable
But AV's saying there's always opportunities somewhere.
if you know where to look
Mm.
and if you're willing to, take a risk.
So it's not about clinging to the past.
No, it's about building the future. And maybe the future is in those places that are still figuring things out.
That's a hopeful way to look at it. Like it's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly. And that's what I appreciate about Evie's approach. He doesn't just point out the problems.
Yeah, he offers solutions.
Well, he gets you thinking about solutions. And he reminds us that, economic cycles are going to happen.
There's going to be ups and downs.
But we get to choose how we respond to them.
Do we just ride the wave?
Or do we try to, steer the ship?
I like that. And I think that's a great takeaway from this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
It's not just about understanding the UK economy. It's about understanding our role in any system and how we can make it better.
So what will you do? That's Avie's challenge.
That's the question we all have to ask ourselves, I think. How can we contribute to a future that's, more prosperous, more fair, more sustainable for everyone?
That's the goal.
I think so. A world where everyone has the chance to thrive. That's what we should be working towards.
Couldn't agree more.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up our deep dive into the UK economy.
Thanks for having me. This was a great discussion.
Yeah, this was fascinating. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.